Over the past couple of weeks, I've been testing out a bunch of beginner jobs in Grand RP, seeing which ones will give out the most amount of profit in 1 hour. And I've tallied up all the results, and today we are going over which jobs you guys should consider doing if you're a beginner in Grand RP, or even if you're a veteran, you can actually make a ton of money. So I hope you guys go on to enjoy the video, and if you haven't already joined the server and want to, be sure to click the link down below in the description, click on start playing, select which server you want to play on, register an account, and download the launcher, and then you guys are good to go. But with that out of the way, let's jump into it. We're going to be starting off from the bottom, the ones you don't really want to mess with. The first one is going to be an oil delivery man. Now, I ended up making $3,510 from this job in 1 hour. And I also had to rent a truck for $2,500. So my profit margins were extremely low. The only time this job will actually be profitable is if all of the oil fields are completely full, because then you could take your truck there, you can get 4,000 liters of oil in it, go and drop it off, and that's $4,000 that you'll end up making. But if there's only 500 in each one of them, you're only going to be making 500 bucks, and you got to drive really far away and all the way back, and it's honestly just not worth your time. Next, I became a garbage truck driver. This job is just not it. I was super excited when it first came out, but it just turned out to be absolutely terrible. We did it for about 30 minutes, and we managed to make 2,400 bucks. We started off in the city, then had to drive all the way to Paleto Bay. Then we came back to the city, drove around in the city for a bit, then I had to drive back to Paleto Bay, and I'm like, yeah, I'm done with this. After you get 10 bags of garbage in your garbage truck, you can dump it out and make a little bit more cash, but still, after 30 minutes, we had to drive all the way around the map, and we were picking up 2 bags of garbage at a time. It just isn't profitable in the long run. If they made it where you just drive a small route in the city and then deliver all of the garbage after, 5 minutes, you make like, I don't know, 2,500 bucks or something like that, like many of the other beginner jobs, then it would be much better. But 30 minutes to make 2,500 bucks? Yeah, I'm good. They really overhyped it. I wish it was better, and maybe in the future they will make it better. But at the current moment, it's definitely not great. Next is going to be a bus driver. Now, I see a lot of people doing this in Grand RP, so I decided to try it out. And it really isn't that profitable. We only made $10,000 as a bus driver, and we were driving the routes as fast as we possibly could, hitting the checkpoints, doing everything we were told to do, but we only made 10 grand. Now, obviously, it does depend on which routes you take. I took the long route at first, and it took a really long time. It was like 23 minutes to complete that route, and it wasn't worth it because we barely made any money. So I decided to do some of the shorter routes. It took less time, and honestly, the money wasn't too bad there, but at the end of the day, we still only made $10,000 in an hour from it. So it really isn't worth it, especially from what you're going to hear in a little bit about these other jobs, because some of them are truly insane. Before we jump into that, take a look at this video's sponsor. If you need any assistance in any of your favorite games like GTA 5, Fortnite, Forza, Call of Duty, and many, many more, be sure to check out Damnmodz down below in the description, and at checkout use code Frolickz to get up to $100 off your order. Next, we got electrical. Now, this isn't a terrible job. When I was doing it inside the power plant, I managed to make about $7,300 in just 30 minutes, which means I can make about $14,600 in an hour. And that's just working in the power plant. I then decided to take the truck out and go repair panels around the city, and I decided to stop right away because it is not profitable. You drive really far away, repair one panel, and while it was paying out a high salary, I only managed to make 400 bucks per panel, and it was taking forever. After about 11 minutes of doing it, I made 800 bucks. It's just not worth it to drive the truck around. But inside the power plant, it's not terrible, especially if you manage to get yourself some wires, because you could sell those for a pretty decent amount of money. But it's definitely not the #1 job that you can do in Grand RP. If you're able to get a lot of wires from working in electrical, then it could be very beneficial for you. But even when I was there, I repaired 150 panels, didn't get a single wire. It's all random when it comes to that, but if you do manage to get one, you could sell those for a bit of money, which is great. But still, in an hour, you're going to end up making about 14,600 bucks, and that's when it's paying out a high salary. So it's definitely not one of the best jobs in the world, but we're getting into some better ones now. Next, I became a taxi driver, and I made $17,300 in 1 hour. Now, I have to say, this job can be profitable, but it's probably one of the most annoying beginner jobs in Grand RP, because you have to deal with annoying people. Now, what ended up happening was I did a bunch of trips, but like 6 of them ended up flopping because a couple of them I didn't get paid for because they were so short. Other ones, the calls got canceled. I even got called to one place where somebody just wanted me to flip their car over. It's just annoying at the end of the day. And I ended up making, like I said, 17,300 bucks from it. Half the time I was just sitting around waiting, and if I didn't accept the calls right away, then I'm just still sitting around waiting at the hospital, and the hospital can be a very annoying place. People constantly spamming their horns, running around ear raping, it just gets annoying. And the profit just isn't there, especially when some of the other jobs we're going to talk about are much better. You can make a lot from being a taxi driver, it's just the demand for it just isn't there at this point in time. So I wouldn't really recommend it, especially from what you're going to hear in a little bit. Next is becoming a postal delivery driver. We managed to make $22,077 from doing this. It's actually a pretty great job, but there is one key thing that you need to look out for, and that's going to be the trips that are really far away. If you decide to do those, the max you can make is $2,500, something that's like 6 or 7 miles away. You could also do a trip that's like 3.5 miles or 4 miles and still make $2,500. And then there's the shorter trips that are like 0.3 miles, and you'll make maybe about $500 from them. Pretty much what you want to do is if you ever get a trip that's over 4.5 miles, just go to the postal office and cancel it. Maybe even trips that are shorter than that. Either way, you want to look for the shorter trips and you'll be able to make a whole lot more money, because if you spend half your time driving all the way to Paleto Bay and back to the city, you're not going to be able to make that much money. But if you only have to drive 3 miles here, 2 miles here, 1 mile there, your profits will definitely increase. The job can be great, but it's definitely not the best one in the game. Next up, I became a farmer. Now, when I was watering the crops, I managed to make $12,640 in 30 minutes. And then I decided to go and cultivate the fields, and I made about $1,100. So obviously, cultivating the fields is not your best option. What you want to do is obviously water crops, and once you get to level 3, you're then able to give contracts out, which can make you a lot more money. And the money really comes from getting seeds. Now, when I was actually watering crops, I wasn't making that much money. But the money came in when I got seeds, because you could sell those for a pretty decent amount of money, and people need them, especially when events are coming up and you can exchange resources. That's what will make you the most amount of money. So those seeds that you get will end up being literally all of your profit. You could also plant those seeds and then sell what you get for even more money. So being a farmer is actually pretty decent, but it all depends on getting the seeds, and if you want to maximize your profits, just try to offer contracts to people as much as you can and see if you could buy the seeds from them at a fairly low price, or if you can buy them in bulk. Maybe they don't know the going rate, or they just want to get rid of them. Either way, it's actually not a terrible job, but like I said, all of your profit will literally come from getting seeds. Next, I became a lumberjack, and I managed to make $12,505 just from chopping down trees, which is pretty good, considering we didn't even add in the timber that we got, which was a total of 21 after 1 hour, and I'm going to be selling that for $1,000 a pop. Everybody else was selling it for $1,200, but if you want to get rid of it quickly, sell it a little bit lower, meaning we made about $33,505 in about 1 hour. Not a terrible job whatsoever, and when it comes to actually getting the timber, it's really random. Sometimes I chop down 50 trees and not get any, and then I would chop down 10 and get like 5 pieces of it. Most of the money will come from the timber at the end of the day, but you actually do make a pretty good amount just from chopping down trees by themselves. And by the way, it was paying out at a high salary at the time, and that is definitely a big factor. So you obviously want to do these jobs when they are paying out a high salary, because that'll just maximize your profits. But being a lumberjack honestly isn't terrible once you get to level 2, and if you get to level 3, you can start offering people contracts and start maximizing your profit even more. Next, I became a pilot and managed to make $32,000 in 1 hour. It's a fairly simple job. All you need to do is know how to fly, and if you don't, plug in a controller and hopefully you're able to fly with a controller. And if you can't fly at all, then it's probably not the best job, because it actually does require a little bit of skill. But there's 2 different routes you can go down. When I was doing it, I just went with the regular flight route. You can go the illegal route once you complete 150 flights, but of course there is a risk of you being arrested, but you can make some more money because you're delivering illegal products. But just be careful with that. If you want to do it, I'd recommend doing the illegal stuff when the server's not at high peak hours, because then there won't be too many cops online and hopefully you stand a better chance, and you will make a little bit more money, but the flight path will be a little bit longer because you have to fly to Puerto Rico. Either way, not a bad job. $32,000 and no chance of getting arrested is pretty decent, but like I said, you take the illegal route, you can make more, but it is more risky. Next up is becoming a taco truck driver. Now this is a great job just because you could do it AFK. Let's say you go and grind out some other job for a little while, and then you're like, I want to take a break for a while. Go rent yourself a taco truck and sit down at the hospital. Put your price at the lowest markup, because then people will end up buying food from you in bulk. Some people will go and buy like 300, 400 steak, and you'll make a lot of money. I sat there for 3 hours and I made $41,112. I had my prices at a medium markup. People were telling me, put it at a lower one so then people will buy in bulk from you. Like I said, this is a job where you literally have to do nothing. Just be in game and sit in your truck the entire time, and you'll come back to more money in your pocket. It's literally that simple. All you gotta do is manage to rent a truck, because there's only like 5 or 6 trucks in the entire city, so if you don't get a truck, you can't do the job. And obviously the best time to do this is when the purge is happening, because so many people die and they need lots of food, so even a couple of days before that, people will start stocking up on it. So if you could do this job, you'll be able to make a ton of money by just sitting there, and like I said, during the purge, you can expect to make hundreds of thousands of dollars, and you don't even need to be at your computer. It's a great job, especially if you don't feel like playing at that moment in time. Now we're jumping into the top 3 beginner jobs in Grand RP. If you guys have enjoyed the video to this point, be sure to drop a like on it. But anyways, in the number 3 spot is becoming a firefighter. Now I did it for 1 hour and I made $24,000. Now you're probably thinking, well, wait a minute, that's not that much money. Some of the other jobs you just mentioned pay out more. Well, the key with being a firefighter is doing it with a group of people. You can make so much more money if you just have one other person with you, because you're able to put out fires twice as fast. And if you're doing it in a group of 4, you could literally put out fires 4 times as quick, meaning you'll be able to make 4 times the amount of money since you don't have to spend as much time on each individual fire. So having more people to do it with will literally maximize your profits, and you can also type in the radio chat asking if anybody wants to group up and do it together. It's highly recommended you do this, and if you do it by yourself, you're not going to make that much money. But if you can get some people to do it with you, then you're pretty much golden and able to make tens of thousands of dollars every single hour. And it might even be number 1 on this list, depending on how many people you have doing it with you. If there's 8 people putting out one singular fire, you guys will be able to put it out in like 5 seconds, and then you're pretty much golden. Either way, it's a great job. Just make sure you do it with some people. Now we're jumping into number 2. Now this is kind of tied with number 1, and it's going to be becoming a fisherman and becoming a miner. Now, when I was mining, I managed to make a grand total of $77,160, and when I was a fisherman, I estimated it would be around $88,000. The reason why is because these resources you could trade in for candy during any of the events that happen. And usually there's a couple every single year, which is great. And what most people do is they stock up on all of these resources, and when those events start, all of the prices skyrocket. And then as the event continues, the prices start to drop a bit. For example, the last event that just happened, people were selling diamonds at $22,000 each. Now that the event's ending, they're selling for about $12,000, and they still will end up selling for a pretty good amount of money because people just decide to buy them instead of actually going out and doing the hard labor to get them. But either way, when an event starts, you'll be able to make a ton of money. I remember I did this a little while ago with one of my friends. We stocked up on resources like crazy. An event started, we sold them all off and got so much money. I think I had about $2 million worth of resources before the event, and then after, I managed to sell all of it off, and I think I made around $6 million in total, which was great. And all you need to do is just go there and mine, or go there and fish, because all of those resources end up selling out for the exact same amount of money just because they're all worth the same amount of candy. Like, salmon is 8,000 candy. A diamond is also 8,000 candy. Now, of course, those are the rarer items, but even the lower rated items like copper and perch, I managed to get the most of, and that's actually where most of my profit ended up coming from, which was awesome. So at the end of the day, these two are the best beginner jobs. They're not going to get you paid right away, but if you decide to do this stuff like a couple weeks before an event starts, you could stack up on some products and end up selling them off and make a couple $1 million, depending on how much time you decide to put into it. After all of that research, this is the conclusion I came to, and hopefully it helped you guys out. I know I missed out on a couple of jobs, so if you know more about those jobs that I missed out on, like becoming a debt collector or even being a submarine driver, which I've done and just didn't want to add it because it was really, really bad, be sure to comment it down below to help some people out. But anyways, thank you so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed, and with that said, I will catch you guys in the next one.